Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Language Arts Gallery. Today, we're going to begin talking about a new genre of writing. We're going to talk about writing a comparative essay for young learners. Now, this series of lesson is aimed at students age 7 to 8. So please remember to subscribe to my channel so you get all 6 lessons in this series of writing workshop lessons. And you can find the link to this resource in the video description. So let's go ahead and let's get started. So when we write a comparative essay, we're talking about similarities and differences between two topics for comparison. And a comparative essay is a difficult genre of writing for all students through high school and university. So we're teaching this with students who are 7 to 8 years old. So we're going to take a very simplified approach to try and familiarize them with the building blocks of what a good comparative essay is. Now, I teach a unit on Alaska in my class, and I read several stories where students really become very familiar with all the things that make Alaska a very interesting place and a very special place. So before my kids begin writing, they've got a lot of content to draw from. And I think if you'd like to teach a unit on Alaska, I think that's a great idea. I actually have a language arts lesson in my TPT store that covers a unit on Alaska. But if you're just looking to write a comparative essay and you're thinking about how Alaska is similar to and different from your hometown, then this resource is all you need, because this first day we go through building background related to Alaska, some things that make it special. And we start with a KWL chart. And I include this in the resource. This is something where we're going to ask our kids, what do you already know about Alaska? And, I think most of my students usually can come up with quite a few things. It's very cold there. There's lots of snow. There are polar bears that live there. Some things that they might not know. You might be surprised. Some students mention things like the Northern Lights. Most students do not. But then we're going to revisit this. We're going to talk about what we know, what we want to know, and then after today's lesson, we're going to come back and talk about what we learned. So I introduced them to where Alaska is, depending on what context you're teaching in. Some students may be from a part of the country where they may be familiar with Alaska, others may not. So I teach about where it is, and I teach about what it's like there. And this is a great start because most of my students know that Alaska is very cold. One thing that makes it really interesting, my kids always think this is so incredible, is the fact that the sun never rises in the winter and it never sets in the summer. So we usually spend a few moments talking about this. We talk about what would be difficult about living through your days with no sunlight. What would be cool about having 24 hours of sunlight? And what would be difficult? Would it be hard to go to sleep at night if the sun's out? And then we can talk about the many beautiful landforms in Alaska, the mountains and the glaciers. This is great to pair with your science lessons if you're teaching on different landforms. My students always love learning about the different animals in Alaska. This is, again, something you could do a mini lesson on or tie to a story that you're reading. I've done lots of stories about brown bears and wolves. I've also taught stories about seals. And sports. Sports are really interesting and unique in Alaska. We've got things like skiing and snowboarding. They've got the Iditarod, which is the world famous dog sled race. So we touch on a lot of things that make Alaska a unique and special place. So if you haven't already taught this, this provides a really good background for the students. And then we can go back and we can complete our KWL chart by talking about the things that we learned about Alaska. Now, this is where we really want our students to start thinking about what's similar between their hometown and Alaska and what's different. Now, we're going to get our students to work with a Venn diagram, and this is really where we're going to start building points of comparison. So we're going to talk about what are some things that are similar. People love sports, maybe. That might be one similarity. Maybe there are some beautiful landforms, both in Alaska and in your hometown. And then we want to talk about differences. Likely you're gonna say that the sun rises and sets every day in your hometown. And in Alaska, there are periods of time where it never rises or it never sets. And of course, that's going to depend on where you live. Another similarity might be that you both get snow. Difference might be that it gets very warm where you live and you go to the beach all the time, something like that. And that could be something that's different. But we want to start building out these similarities and these differences between Alaska and your hometown. And in our next lesson, we're going to come back and we're going to take a look at a mentor text. And we're going to see how people can weave these similarities and differences into a very simple comparative essay. So I will see you in day 2 of writing a comparative essay.